all have infections because of what happened today. NCDC DG says Nigerians could go back to work. The Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, Chinwe Ihegwezu, says that the country leadership may be forced to impose lockdown restrictions to combat the spread of the COVID-19 disease. President Muhammadu Buhari had put Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, on lockdown since March 30th, 2020 to contain the spread of COVID-19, which has infected over 3.5 million people across the world. With the lockdown lifted on Monday, May 4th, many people, especially in Lagos and Abuja, have been seen violating safety measures advised by the government. Social media have been flooded with images and videos of people in packed buses, rowdy crowds queuing at bus stops, and packed queues at different bank branches. While speaking during the daily briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on Monday, Ihegwezu acknowledged that initial reports across the country are not too pleasing. The NCDC DG appealed to individuals and corporate organizations to take responsibility so that the exposure and transmission of the virus can be properly managed. He said that PTF will hope that Nigerians will learn how to normalize going about daily lives while also adhering to the preventive measures advised by the government. Ihegwezu warned that an explosion in the infection figures will mean that the lockdown may be reintroduced to control the spread of the COVID-19 virus. He said, "We knew today would be a problem because first, for the first time, people were let out of their homes. But now that we are out, the challenge for us as a society is how do we now organize ourselves to mitigate this risk and limit transmission from each other. Yes, we might have a few extra infections today and tomorrow, but what we don't know is an explosion of new infections. If we do have that explosion, there will be almost no choice left for the leadership of the country than to ask all of us to go back into our homes." Ihegwezu stressed that the price to pay for reopening of the country is to organize responsibly so that it can be done safely. Although we can learn to live with it for the next few weeks and months until we are able to come out of the period, he said. The Minister of Health, Osage Ihianire, noted during the briefing that President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to ease the restriction was to ensure that people did not completely lose their livelihood while the nation continues to battle the spread of this disease. It is a delicate balance that you have to make. We have reached a certain level in healthcare where you begin to balance the pros and cons. A prolonged lockdown has effect, and you begin to see that the consequences of that lockdown becomes as grievous as the consequences of the disease itself. It is very difficult, but the president have taken a very wise position, taking that thin lines between two sides. He said, Nigeria has recovered 255,000 COVID-19 cases in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory as of the May 3rd, 2020. 400 people have recovered and been discharged after medical treatment, but 87 people have died. Thank you, viewers, for listening to this news. This CDCG, what they call it, DG, is not God. Locking yourself indoors cannot prevent this spirit to attack you. So let people go out and continue with their jobs. Let them go out. I suggest that you encourage them to come back to God, or to advise them on the measures that should be taken. You should mandate it on them that whosoever that refused to put on this face mask will pay a fine. Believe me, they would definitely want to prevent themselves from this by putting on this face mask, even if it's comfortable or not comfortable for them. That is it. So you should try to imitate China, their way of lives. Who does not know God? By following them for lockdown, what their idols direct them to do. Their idols direct them to do one of two things to prevent them from getting this virus. But they never introduce any lockdown to their country. God is the only situation and solution for this virus, not locking everybody in their various homes. Even if you want to lock them, they need to be provided the means of survival. You need to provide for them what they will use in surviving, not pushing them or abandoning them in the house without providing anything for them. And you believe that they will survive and they will not die. And you believe, assuming the first time this lockdown was introduced and the food to be given is very, very much available. Even the second lockdown, they wouldn't have protested. With this third lockdown, they wouldn't have been grumbling. Even now that you want to, this NDCC DG has introduced another lockdown, they wouldn't have been bothering themselves because they knew criteria that they won't be going anywhere, but there's food and money available for them. They won't be working, but there's something to feed on. But not that there is nothing and you ask them to stay at home. How possible is that? How possible is that? So this man should not just try to do any stupid things. I'm so impressed with what the Minister of Health has just said. Is one in a million. He's not supporting the NCDC DG for what he said. So I like him, the statement that he just made. I love his statement. It shows that he has the interest of the poor ones and those that have not been working to feed their families at heart. I wish I can be heard through this medium. I am an ambassador, and I'm Ambassador Friday Christopher, head of the Nigerian Central Office. The Nigerian Central Office for the International Human Rights Commission. As a regional organization, we have since tickets. We have ticked the DG NCDC for an international award because of his sincerity in the management of COVID-19 in Nigeria. But I also make bold to say that critical areas like civil enforcement cannot come to a success by government order. Civil enforcement in civilized communities are usually people driving, especially in Nigeria. Why the obvious facts before the advent of COVID-19 is that there was a wide gap between the head